Hi, hey, hello, how's it going? It's Emily, and today we're in a slightly different location. We're filming in the secondary bedroom, which normally functions as Matt's office when he works from home, but he's actually in the office today, and so this room had better lighting and is also closer to the books that I've read this year. I keep them in the main bedroom, and this is the mid-year book freakout tag, and so I'm going to be talking about the books I've read this year and the good, the bad, everything in between, and so it was just easier to take them in here rather than all the way downstairs to the bottom floor. Anyway, so let's just jump right in. This is a tag that they said just checks in on reading so far this year, and the first question just jumps right in with the best book that you've read so far this year. And for that one, I'm gonna put Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wong. And I'll just be super brief about the books. This one follows a woman who is trying to become a mage, and women have only recently been allowed to even take the test to become one, so she's facing a lot there. And instead of being given an assistant who's experienced with magic, she's given the janitor as her assistant. So it's about their relationship, things they discover about the world, and what they decide to do with those discoveries. Super emotional, so good. And the next question is the best sequel you've read this year. So I'm gonna go with Somewhere Beyond the Sea by T.J. Klune. I adored this one. This is the follow-up to The House in the Cerulean Sea, where we follow Linus, who works for the agency that checks in on orphanages for magical children and makes sure that they're up to standards. And so he visits Arthur's orphanage, or the orphanage that Arthur runs, meets the kids there. It's heartwarming, it's delightful. And here we get another kid at the orphanage, and just a lot of other stuff is happening. So I love this one so much. They're just so heartwarming, and I love both of them. I also really loved Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros, of course, the third book in the series that starts with Fourth Wing, where we follow Violet going to a military academy to basically learn to be a dragon rider. She's placed in the Fourth Wing in a section where they're learning to ride dragons, and so there are dragons involved, war is brewing, lots of stuff is happening. It's super fun, and I really love that installment. So the next question is a new release you haven't read yet but you want to, and of course there are so many. I haven't read Catherine Center's new release or Abby Jimenez's new release, The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig, sorry, and haven't read V.E. Schwab's new release, Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil, but I'm excited about all of those. But I think the one I'm most excited about that I finally have in my hands is Silverboard by Jessica Townsend. This is the fourth book in the Nevermore series, and it's a middle grade series. I absolutely adore everything about this series, and there's been a long wait between the third and the fourth one, and so I'm just so excited that the fourth one is out and that I finally have it and I can finally continue this series. And this one follows an 11-year-old girl. She's about to turn 11 at the start of the series, and she's kind of blamed for everything that goes wrong in her town, and she is whisked off to Nevermore and goes to this magical school. She stays at this magical hotel, and Jupiter North is such a delightful character and looks after her and is kind of her guardian during this process. Anyway, it's such a fun series. So I think that one's probably the one I'm most excited about. So the next one is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I think I'm gonna make a separate video about this, but I will just hold up I'm not gonna talk about any of these, but I will just hold up some books that are getting sequels or getting other books in their respective worlds in the second half of the year that I'm particularly excited about. Just a couple more. This one actually just came out, like the next one after this, and I'm it's been hard not to just drive straight to the bookstore and buy it. There's also this one that just came out. So excited. And then this one is also getting a sequel later in the year. So those are just some that I'm excited about. And I'll do another video on that one later. The next book, or the next prompt rather, is The Biggest Disappointment. And for that one, I'm probably going to go with Goliath by Tochi Onyebuchi. This is such a cool premise, and we follow a world where humans have kind of gone into space and colonized other areas, but only the rich can really afford to do that, and the poor are kind of left behind on an Earth that's getting increasingly uninhabitable. And like, such a cool premise to work with, but I wasn't interested in anything that was going on in the first 50 to 75 pages, and so I just gave up on this one, unfortunately. Let's see, the next one is The Biggest Surprise, and for that one I have to go with The Day of the Jackal by Frederick Forsyth. And this one I read actually because of Kim and Amy's TBR game. So we got a prompt to have someone pick a book for us. It's a super fun interactive TBR game. If you haven't played, it's so much fun. And we got a prompt to have someone pick a book for us. So Matt picked this out for me. And it was written by a dude in the 70s, so I was very skeptical. And there are definitely some things in here that would not be published today. But the plot line was so interesting, and it follows someone hired to be an assassin and the detective who is trying to track the assassin down. So it's a detective assassin cat and mouse game, and it was so entertaining. We also ended up watching the recent TV show that's inspired by that with Eddie Redmayne, and it was so good. Would recommend. Let's see. Next one is New Favorite Author, and I think quite a bit of what I've read so far this year is from authors that I've read from before. But I will say I hadn't read Robert Jackson Bennett before, and I've read this one and A Drop of Corruption and really enjoyed both. So that could be an answer, but I don't really have a great one for this. Let's see. Next one is Newest Fictional Crush, and I don't tend to get fictional crushes. Oh, actually, let me just briefly mention what this is about. So this one follows Den and Anna, and it's kind of a Sherlock Watson story told from the perspective of Den, who's the Watson character. And it's set in a fantasy world, and these two characters solve mysteries in this super unique and interesting fantasy world. So, anyway. Newest fictional crush. I don't tend to get fictional crushes, so I'll go with the couples that I've shipped the most so far this year. I really love the pairing by Casey McQuiston, and in this one we're following Theo and Kit, and I adore this one. I love their dynamic and just how well they worked together as a couple. And it's actually a second chance romance. They were together and we're gonna go on this food tour of Europe, and they broke up on the plane right there. They had a voucher to be able to do this tour for another handful of years and just kind of push it back to a different tour later on. But they pushed it back to be on the same tour. So, the voucher is about to expire, and they both go on kind of the last tour that they can before their voucher expires. And so they go on a food tour of Europe together. And one of them is a pastry chef, and one is a sommelier. So it was just so cool to see a food and wine tour of Europe from their perspective. Anyway, I love them. I also see if I can grab it. Where did it go? Here it is. I also really love Raina and Kianth from Can't Spell Treason Without Tea by Rebecca Thorne. And they basically just decide to say screw it and move to a new place and open up this tea and bookshop. And it's such a delight. It's such a delight. I love them so much. And I love this series. Again, just a cozy fantasy, but still some plot and some things going on. Like, these two characters have both been very involved in the politics and magic of this world, and so they continue to be involved in that while they're running this tea and bookshop, and it's a delight. So, and then, oh, one more. Sorcery and Small Magics. I really love these two. Here we're following Leo and Sebastian, and I adore these two. They go to this school, and they don't really like each other at first, and they, through a spell work or a spell that goes wrong, things happen and they need to undo what has happened with this spell gone wrong. And so they go on an adventure to undo that. And it's just a delight. Like, they're so funny. And I just really love their dynamic. So we'll go with that. Let's see. The next question is a book that made you cry. I don't think I've cried at anything yet, but I think Blood Over Brighthaven made me the most emotional. So we'll go with that. The next one is, oh, actually, sorry. I skipped newest favorite character. And for that one, I have a couple of responses. Den, the Watson character from this one, I absolutely love. Den. He is just such an endearing character. I love him so much. I also really loved, and this is the second book in the Thursday Murder Club. It was just more convenient for me to grab. But I really loved the crew in the Thursday Murder Club. This follows a group who are in a retirement home who solve murders that are going on around them and work with the detectives to do that. They're so funny. Like, we have been laughing nonstop while reading those two books. So I really love that crew. Okay, so the next one is a book that made you happy, and instantly the book that came to mind when I thought of this one is The God and the Gamiho by Sophie Kim. This one made me so happy. And in this one we're following Hani and Sioka, and Hani is a Gamiho who murdered a bunch of people in the 1800s and hasn't since, eat the liver of men, consume their souls to give her power, that kind of thing. She hasn't since, and Sioka is a disgraced or fallen god who is a detective, and Hani is working in a coffee shop, and Sioka is just kind of a grump. And so they kind of don't really like each other at the beginning of the story, and Sioka is investigating a couple of murders. Hani actually does end up killing a couple of men, and Sioka is investigating their murders, and so she takes the position of his assistant to help throw off the investigation. And it's so funny. I love this one so much. Like, the premise doesn't sound like something that would be a book that makes you happy, but I promise this is like a K-drama. Like, literally our author is like, this is a love letter to K-dramas. And so it's kind of that vibe, and it's a delight from start to finish. I absolutely adored that one. The next question is the most beautiful book that you bought so far this year. And this one is always a hard one because Fairy Loot puts out some real beautiful books. I think the one that I've loved the most, and I also really enjoyed the book too, but I really love this edition of The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith. There you can see a little bit. It's kind of hard to, but I love this pastel color palette, and the back is gorgeous, like the sprayed edges. And then, like, this is the naked hardcover. So gorgeous. And then the artwork that's inside is also just stunning. So I love the color palette. I love the art. And I also really enjoyed the book. This one follows someone who is in a world where the queen can make a bargain with you, and so she's trying to help her sister, like, undo her sister's bargain, because her sister's bargain kind of messed her up. and she just hasn't been the same since. And she finds out at this it's kind of like a ball, like a society ball to start the season, and the participants find out that the prince is actually looking for a suitor, and so she enters the competition to be his suitor, and that competition kind of gets a lot darker than she expects. And so she's caught up in this like super dark competition run by this cruel queen, and is starting to get to know the prince, but also kind of maybe falling for his brother. And it was a lot of fun. But also just one of the most stunning Fairy Loot editions that I've received this year. The final question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Too many to actually name. There are too many to name. I'm gonna be reading a bunch of summer romances. The anticipated releases I haven't read yet are definitely on the list to be read. I need to catch up on a bunch of Fairy Loots, and Fairy Loot did do editions of Night and the Moth and Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, so those are on the list to read. Summer romances, including the Catherine Center and Abby Jimenez book. So I'll be reading a bunch of summer romances coming up, and then I've got a full lineup of fall reads that are like nice, spooky, atmospheric reads, a lot of continuations of series that I've started and need to keep going with. So fall is going to be jam-packed. And then, I don't know, there's so much I need to catch up with by the end of the year. So I never really know what to say for this one, but there are too many to count. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this tag. Let me know your answers to any of these questions. I really love if you've done this video or if you've done this tag as a video, please link it below. I would love to watch. Or if you just want to answer a few of the questions in the comments below, please do so. I would love to know how your reading has been going this year, what were some of the highlights, and anyway, I would love to know. So subscribe for more bookish content, and thanks again for watching. I'll leave more information below, including a link to my Instagram and more information about how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.